Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of the EU DisinfoLab webinar series. It is exactly 2:30, and while we wait for a few more participants to join, let me quickly introduce myself. I am Ana Romero, Community Coordinator at EU DisinfoLab, and I'll be moderating today's session. First of all, on behalf of the entire EU DisinfoLab team, let me start by thanking you for your continued support and commitment to this format. Over the past month, we've seen how meaningful and impactful these webinars have become, not only through the growing number of registrations and attendees, but also through the quality and engagement and interaction we share together in every session. So big thanks to all. We are delighted to have you with us. And for those who have just joined, welcome. It's the perfect time to officially get started with today's webinar, Operation Overload, Smarter, Bolder, Powered by AI. All right, so before we dive in, just a few quick notes. Because we want this webinar to be as interactive as possible, we will be using a platform called Slido. That's where you can answer a couple of questions I'll be sharing shortly. And most importantly, where you can post your questions for our speakers. So please take your phone, scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or simply go to slido.com and enter the password #disinfo. So while you are joining Slido, let me also remind you that you can follow this session with subtitles in your preferred language. You see some kind of instructions on the screen. So, so just so you know, this session is being recorded and will be available most probably tomorrow on our website and also on EU DisinfoLab YouTube channel. Before we kick things off, just one more exciting update. We are less than a month away from gathering in Ljubljana for the EU DisinfoLab annual conference. Around 600 members of our community will be there, 600. It's going to be great, inspiring, and super dynamic event. The program and speakers are truly outstanding. There will be plenty of opportunities to learn from the best. We have organized 4 tracks with plenty of sessions, and there will be plenty of time also to connect with colleagues. So if you haven't secured your spot, there's still time, don't miss it really. But for now, let's focus in today's webinar, dear audience. We want to get to know more about you, the people behind the screen. Please use Slido to let us know where are you joining us from today? I'm myself speaking from Madrid. Hola. Madrid, Brussels, Romania, Berlin, Switzerland. Good number of people from Berlin, Helsinki, Greece. Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. Now let's move to the other question. We would also love to know which sector do you represent. Okay, mostly NGOs, civil society, academia. All right, thank you very much for participating. Coming from several parts of the world with different backgrounds, but always shared interest. I am now delighted to set the stage for today's webinar. A very warm welcome to our 2 fantastic speakers, our dearest Aleksandra Atanasova, lead open source intelligence researcher at Reset Tech, and Guillaume Kuster, CEO and co-founder of CheckFirst. Today, Aleksandra and Guillaume are here for something really important, the presentation of the last investigation on Operation Overload. So let me very briefly remind you where the series began. The first report on Operation Overload was at a turning point. It revealed for the very first time a large-scale Kremlin-based operation targeting journalists and fact checkers mainly. So there were bad actors sending emails urging to please check fake graffiti, manipulated videos, and fabricated screenshots, etc., with basically the clear intent of overloading media teams, wasting their time, and even tricking fact checkers into amplifying false narratives. So, and then the second report, it was, I think, if I'm not wrong, a kind of update released last year around this time that went even deeper. It revealed how the operation had evolved around major global events using increasingly sophisticated methods, such as deepfakes and even cloned videos of well-known speakers. Now this new investigation takes us one step further. It shows how the campaign is scaling up both in volume and complexity, powered by AI and targeting an even wider set of democracies and electoral processes. But let's hear it directly from the expert, Aleksandra and Guillaume. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. I am trying to share my screen. Hold on for a second. Right. You should be able to see it now. Oh, good.
All good, Aleksandra.
Yes. Perfect. So thank you so much, Isabella, EU DisinfoLab team, for inviting us kindly to present this investigation, which was published in June. So as you said, Anna, this is the third edition of our research into Operation Overload. We have been tracking this influence operation since more than a year and a half now. As you said, like June last year was the first thing that we did, then September last year, and here we go again. June this year, we decided to check what's been happening since our research from last year, and indeed the operation has become way more sophisticated, alarmingly proficient in both like content creation, experimenting with new content types, tracking different types of like platforms, just checking which platforms would be better to continue to push those narratives, new amplification tactics, etc. So we are seeing more like a mature campaign now. Then last year, they have consolidated their efforts and they know that what they are doing is good. And of course, the end goal of this whole thing is to kind of catapult those narratives into Western media, and either by like hijacking attention of fact checkers to debunk those stories, or by using other types of amplifiers. And we talk about the new amplification tactics that they've been developing. So let's first, before I tell you what's new, just to very briefly present how this operation is being like what are the kind of like hallmarks of this operation, what has stayed the same. So practically we have operation pipeline and end goal, which are unchanged. The whole thing starts with creating like a false fake content. This content is mostly videos branded with the logos of reputable media or other organizations. Those videos are then like seeded in a three-phase attempt until they kind of like reach the attention of possibly fact checkers or other reputable media organizations. So here's the kind of like this kind of three-phase approach to amplify the operation. They start with seeding those kind of like false type of content online. X is the platform that is mostly used for this kind of seeding, that in order to reach Western audiences, but also Telegram is a very big part of the strategy because it serves domestic purposes. A lot of those kind of Telegram channels are in Russian, and they are like pushing those stories into local audiences. I'll talk about how seeding works. Next step is amplifying. Amplifying is after this story has been planted, specific accounts, influencers, paid reposters, etc., being kind of like activated to promote those narratives further. We have on X, we have like a new type of networks that are being deployed. We have, of course, also websites like Kremlin aligned websites, for example, like the Pravda ecosystem of websites is also actively amplifying content. So the usual suspects would go into the amplifying stage, but also some new faces like different MAGA communities on X and different types of like public figures that are like popular in the West. Next stage of this campaign is like obviously stages that don't follow one after another. It's kind of like intermingled between these, but we are going to reach at some point where they decide to kind of contact fact checkers via anonymous Gmail addresses containing links to some of those kind of stories seeded around social media and asking them whether those stories are true, like asking them to debunk, etc. So the end goal of this whole exercise is to get more exposure and get more debunks, ideally. Let me see if I can. Why I cannot? All right, sorry. So distribution tactics, just to illustrate what I just said. So let's start with this kind of ugly graffiti photo of Zelensky eating someone's arm. The amplification and the seeding paths are here. So the story appears on multiple type of content types on multiple accounts. Here are they on the Pravda website. Here are they retweeted by the Sprinter account on X. Sprinter. The Sprinter network is already kind of established as a pro-Kremlin network by Debunk EU, I think, the latest research. Here's the same photo appears as a fake article in Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, again promoted by some kind of Twitter account. It also appears as a fake like Instagram story allegedly published by the account of Deutsche Welle. Same thing promoted by someone on social media. This whole tactic like revolves around multiple promotion, but evolves also around stitching the same content type in multiple different formats. So we start with one photo, and this photo appears in different types of formats like Instagram stories, fake screenshots, videos sometimes, etc. This tactic we call content amalgamation. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but just to say that these are like, they also experiment with content formats in seeding and amplification phase. Then we reach the third phase. Please check, is this true? Email is being sent. Those emails are pretty kind of straightforward, and the end goal was even stated in one of the emails that I think was received by colleagues from Corrective last year. So the person who kind of sent this email was asking them to debunk the story and wanting to know how popular the website of Corrective is, and if it's possible for the story to be seen by as wider audience as possible. So this was clearly stated in the email. So they're not really kind of making any like hideouts about what the purpose is. Main platforms, as I said, for the seeding and amplification phases are X and Telegram. X is the dissemination machine. This is where the magic happens, where this kind of like stories start to travel further. And it's like, if we talk about FIMI, here is the FIMI angle, because it's a way where they kind of like amplify it to the target countries in the West. Telegram, as I said, is more like Russian language channels are being deployed to kind of promote those stories. It's more like we call it the propaganda repository, because like those stories are being like just pushed somehow on Telegram, and then the links are maybe shared in emails or just like shared by other Russian channels. And so we have here like a double angle, like DIMI, domestic propaganda, and FIMI, but it's mostly like mostly works for the local audiences. But it's very interesting still what is happening in locally on Telegram. So we in this report we analyzed with how it works. So around 700 channels are being involved in this operation, judging from the links in the emails that we have received. And we have managed to kind of track down their interconnectedness, and we're seeing here clear clusters that are found around specific channels that share administrators. So it's a coordinated ecosystem. So those type of like channels exist to promote specific content. One of this content is overload, but it could be like many other types. Everything is in the report. You can read these new findings. But to get back to the main dissemination platform X, so here's how it works typically. So groups or pairs of anonymous accounts are kind of like activated to post this content. So we call them Pinger and Seeder. Like the Seeder is the account that kind of like posts initially the fake video and just like with short except for the story. There comes the Pinger who kind of takes the link to this tweet and starts sharing it in mass replies under the accounts of legitimate, be it media or researchers, etc. So here we have like one pinging happening under the profile of Christo Grozek, or under the profile of Meat Detector, another fact-checking organization. So practically the pinging happens in order to kind of like get the attention of the targeted communities on the content. We call the accounts that are being pinged at the target. So we have like 1,300 targets in this new edition of the report on both X and Blue Sky, but I'll talk about it later. So pinging seeding is more like it changes now on X. Like sometimes it's just one account that is kind of seeding and pinging at the same time. What's interesting about those accounts is that the posting activity is always like the same. Like there's not really any posting activity happening outside of this campaign. Most of those accounts are like dormant assets that have been like captured from their, I don't know, state of zombiness since 10 years ago, and suddenly they begin to post about overload, but sometimes even like their old content is not being removed. So we see an account posting in Japanese or in Malay, and then suddenly they are starting to publish in German and French and talking about specific political propaganda. So it's an interesting that they're not really even cleaning those assets. But let's move away from X. So primary target stays the same of this operation. It's Ukraine. Everything to do about anti-Ukrainian rhetoric. Ukrainian refugees are bad, are criminals. Ukraine as a corrupt country. Zelensky, smear campaigns against Zelensky and other politicians. Everything that you can imagine in the already established arsenal of such influence operations. This is the top 10 keywords in the emails that we've received since January. So you can see prominently Ukraine featured, but also we have like France is very also under attack. So we have like also other keywords that appear. So those are like the narratives that they're sharing. I'll talk about narratives in a while. Media impersonation or impersonation in general is one key tactic that they use to enhance the perceived credibility of the stories. Those are always kind of visuals that contain the logos of that are branded with the logos of reputable organizations. Those are the 10-5 most impersonated media as of this year. We have a lot of European media, a lot of French media there. So this is like the main article, like the skeleton of this campaign. What is new now? What is new is that they have become way more prolific in using AI tools to kind of create this content. We're talking about AI fueled impersonation here because those are the videos that are now kind of producing, a lot of them contain deepfake audios, which is something that they kind of started a couple of months ago, mostly like using authentic footage taken from YouTube, for example. This is the YouTube channel of French university. An academic is speaking, they take the footage, drop it in a fake format, put some kind of like voiceover, a synthetic voiceover to mimic the voice of this researcher, and she starts talking about the far right party AfD in Germany and how people should vote about them. So other types of AI generated content is this kind of like funky images, mainly targeting Germany and France, like with I don't know, dystopian photos about Muslim attacking the capital cities, or demonizing French President Macron as seeing like we see like a comic strip of photos of him grinning at military funerals, which has something to do with France's decision to back up Ukraine. We also have this type of like before after series, like what would life under AfD look like in comparison to CDU-CSU, like where the criminality wave is very strong at night. We have explosion of content, like 155% more compared to last year. And we yesterday, my colleague Jan checked the stats for this presentation. We have 37% of all content that we have analyzed in the new report is AI generated content, videos and those images. So obviously AI angle is very strong. Explosion of content, 600 unique pieces. Outside of those deep fake voiceovers, we also have like a typical overload video containing again footage that they kind of steal from all over the internet and stitch it together to make something. They don't use voiceovers on some of those videos, on some they do. Branded with the logo of like universities, colleges, media, etc. We have one of the favorite tactics is just to insert also kind of like QR codes branded also with the identity of some reputable organizations to kind of corroborate the story with external links. They're using also fake articles in newspaper covers, like this one, impersonating like pretending this is like an article published at the Daily Mail, and they're also kind of like exploring other content types. So we have 11 different distinct content formats, up to 4 or 5 that we had in 20 last year. What else do they do? Expansion on new platforms. This is a lot has been done on Blue Sky since January 25. They have turned to Blue Sky as a way to kind of corroborate what they're doing on X, because a lot of the people migrated from X to Blue Sky, so they're kind of like chasing the research community as it is situated. So Blue mirrors X, solidifies the credibility of these stories. Again, pinging city activity, they are happening as well. In May, we noticed an activity on TikTok, not that much, 13 seeder accounts, but they managed to ramp up a very good reach of 3 million views before they were demoted by the platform. Most of this type of like platform switching on and off is more like their strategy to test the platform response, see what will stick, see if the platform removes the assets, what happens with those accounts. And here's here's what happens. For example, on Blue, they managed to remove 65 of those accounts as of May when we were checking. Since January, around 300 accounts were activated on Blue Sky. Like they created like similar posting to those accounts on X, and the majority of them were demoted, were suspended. In comparison, sadly, X was not doing very well back in May when we checked the sample of 250 accounts. We had only 10% that was suspended back then. Number of targets, the number of accounts that are being targeted under the pinging activities is obviously bigger on X because still more people are using this platform compared to Blue Sky. But if we compare both targets, we see like 1,300 targets online accounts are being kind of pinged with overload content on both platforms. One interesting tactic that we noticed around both TikTok and Blue Sky is that the majority of those accounts display some media team branding as to further corroborate the authenticity of those assets and to dupe audiences. 95 of those 300 accounts on Blue Sky were kind of media teamed as a fake media personas, claiming to be journalists, using the logos of I don't know, some media such as BBC, RSF here, etc. If you look around the profile photos, which we did for about 100 of those accounts, we see that those are taken from all over the internet. Some of them are AI generated too. Here's the issue with TikTok. One funny cluster, just I don't know, just to mention that we have some kind of like a group of fake wannabe journalists. So those are accounts that are kind of branded as a journalist. It was like a, I don't know, WTF moment of this investigation. So I want to mention this. So those are normal accounts, but instead of branding themselves as actual journalists working for France 24, for example, they're stating something very weird, like that their relatives are working for the media, or they're somehow involved with the BBC. Don't we all want to be? But it's not really sure, or someone who is saying that they will be a future employee at Politico. So those media personas was an interesting angle to the campaign ramification on Blue Sky and TikTok. What else do we have in terms of stats? Let's just swiftly pass through these almost 1,000 emails we have been receiving since the operation started in last year. We're collecting those from spam. Some we're still like looking to kind of dig out those emails. We have over 500 articles published by fact checkers, which means that the campaign is indeed successful in positing the fact checkers' attentions. We have like a lot of impersonated organizations and individuals in those videos, and we have a lot of amplification going on X to aid the boost of those videos. But let's talk about the narrative. So we have discovered that the narrative focus evolves around three type of like pillars. So these things are stable now, established narratives, but there are sub-narratives, sub-stories that are traveling around and are linked to those three pillars. So we have the anti-Ukrainian rhetoric since they started in 23. We have the election interference angle. They have meddled with stories in the EU elections, US elections, Germany federal elections, Poland, and now the hobby horse topic is Moldova. We have also the pillar about exploiting real-time events. What does it mean? Is that something important happens and they somehow kind of find this event very interesting, and they start to weave their whole narrative strategy around this event in order to target the country. For example, the French Olympic Games last year, they used it as an occasion to see to say that France is an economic disaster and everything is very bad with Macron's government. A similar story with the USA when the whole thing erupted in January. They used a lot for this anti-democrat propaganda or pro-Trump narratives, etc. So we have a lot of smear campaigns against specific politicians around elections. We have a lot of narratives that are claiming that there will be like terrorist threats, or the polls will be skewed, or something bad will happen before or after the elections, like typical election interference narratives mingled in and targeting specific audiences. For example, the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was very much attacked with fake stories about his legitimacy and his involvement with some, I don't know, pedophile networks, I don't remember. Something very vicious is happening in Moldova. Consolidated gender-based disinformation targeting Maya Sandu, vicious smear campaigns against her personal life. I'm going to repeat those narratives, but it's really like we're seeing since April, May that this thing is on the rise and is still continuing. And also we have like even direct violence attacks, like calls for direct violence against Macron and against USAID employees. All of these type of like mini narratives are weaved throughout these stories in the timeline. I can talk a lot about narratives, but let's jump on tactics, because I assume that I don't have that much of a time. Someone is writing that I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Is this correct?
We can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry. Right. Let's talk about tactics. We have a couple of things that we have seen since last year, and I want to mention them before I mention the new tactic that is evolving around content dissemination and content creation and content dissemination. So in terms of content-related tactics, we have the tactic of content amalgamation, which I mentioned at the beginning. This is blending the same story across multiple content formats. I give you the example of one photo that is being put and used across different type of either videos or fake screenshots, etc. This tactic is very much still active, but what we are seeing is an increasingly based on this kind of like gargantuan number of fake videos and fake content that they're creating. They're trying a new way to kind of like push everything into one space, and we call this new approach content stuffing. So which means like practically scaffolding the stories with various multimedia evidence. So there's this tweet, for example, saying that French people prefer Putin to Macron, and this tweet is illustrated with 4 videos that are all about like anti-Macron sentiments in France. Like, and they have a lot of content around this. So they're practically pulling all the content that they're using, weaving it in some kind of like tweets that might resemble a bit like conspiracy boards, and are loaded with different types of information, but it's all the same angle that corroborates the same story. So this is what we call content stuffing. Another tactic that I think is very crucial for this research, and which actually explains why the narratives permit so broader into the public eye, into the public conscious, is so-called dynamic narrative reframing. What does it mean? We create one video, and then this initial story is being planted online, and then you made multiple variations of those videos. We create a couple of other videos or other types of content using angles from the same story with small variations. Within a very short period of time, we publish all of those content types. It's practically like the story continues. So the initial story is presented with ongoing modifications, so that people who are trying to debunk are completely gaslighted whether this is actually happening or not, because they're being bombarded with the story variations within a short period of time. So this dynamic narrative reframing is how the story kind of really gets traction. It works around 3 aspects, like brigading around the narrative. So they choose the topic of we'll talk about this video. This is the alleged escape of Ukraine's first lady from Ukraine. So stating that she has been planning this escape for the past 6 months, and she's no longer in the country. So they choose this story, and they start kind of like brigading around and just like trying to figure out what angles can also be used. Kernel of truth, sometimes it's used like actual information. For example, she was visiting something at the point where the story is created. And new psycho-exploitation, any type of like events that are happening around when this kind of like story is being pushed online, is also kind of integrated into newer videos that contain the same story. Like one example with Zelensky alleged escape from Ukraine. So we have the first video label branded with the logo of BBC. Then we have a couple of days later, we have like UK media like Western Mail, the Scotsman, again like fake newspaper covers that are claiming that that this story is true. Then a couple of days later, there's another fake story, this time branded with the logo of Deutsche Welle, and claiming that she has actually escaped the country because of an extramarital affair. And we have a third one that appears a few days later, branded with the Al Jazeera logo, but here we also have a BBC QR code. There's no coherence between what media brand is being used in those tweets. Anyway, so the Al Jazeera video is claiming that she has had failed several interviews with the BBC before disappearing from the public eye. Again, similar angle to kind of like corroborate the story. Dynamic narrative reframing, I'll talk a little bit in after this slide. So this slide is my last slide about the evolving tactics. And I told you that impersonation continues to be the go-to. But what you're seeing is like a multi-level impersonation. So different aspects of this campaign, either content-based, account-based, are being kind of like exploited to distill some veracity on this on the false content. Like for example, we have like impersonating individuals in those videos. We have the impersonating media in the logos. We have impersonating accounts that are pretending to be journalists, right? And we also have like accounts that are completely fake and they're pretending to be like actual politicians that are using the photos of real people, and they're branding themselves completely as if, for example, this account pretending to be the former president of Finland. So all these accounts like exist to as this type of like to further bolster the story. So apparently the former president only posted this tweet in about France somehow. So those are the tactics that we have been seeing new and more like developed over the course of this past year. But let's go back to how overload stories break out. Like, and I'm going to use the case study of the BBC video with Zelensky to kind of illustrate what makes those story reach reputable media. We spoke that X is the main campaign, the main platform where the campaign is kind of like using to jump in popularity. On X, we are seeing evolving tactics that we did not see in 2024. We're seeing coordinated reposting strategy, like crypto accounts that are being used, like 11,000 network of 11,000 like fake crypto accounts that are being used to kind of like intermittently retweet specific overload posts. This is how the posts are now being propelled online, and their performance is way better than last year. So if we just take from September, we have on average 20,000 views by tweet, and in April we have like 100,000 views, and most of this is due to those kind of like massive retweets that are happening around this content, likes and retweets. So we have like coordinated reposting strategies. Obviously, we have clear CIB because those type of like pingers, headers, they are coordinated. I mean, you see it's like copy paste replies used everywhere. We see the activation, the early involvement, which we did not see before, of Kremlin aligned influencer accounts on X, which are being like exploited to kind of like natively upload the same overload videos. They're not even like retweeting the headers. They're kind of like pushing the narrative even further up the chain. So if I can illustrate this with this very confusing maybe circle of influence. So here's a core group, the pingers and seeders that kind of like exist to initially put the stories out, and then we have the coordinated retweeting networks. I mean, you can read everything about this in the report. It's just way too much to kind of explain here, but we mapped them, we tracked how they work, etc. So the retweeting network is activated to automatically just like retweet content. We have on top of them the Kremlin aligned influencers or Kremlin aligned media such as Pravda that jump in now to kind of like promote those videos. And this is how like the core cluster goes from fringe to hopefully unluckily front page at some point. So we have like a lot of accounts on Next, including Elon Musk, Donald Trump Jr., that have actually spread the stories from overload videos. It's and also mega conservative US influencers also hopping on the bandwagon. Public figures on X that are actually not really knowing what is it about have also amplified such stories. We have one such case study in the report, but I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about the people in red, fact checkers and media, because we cannot control, if I can use the word control, like we have no way there's like a way to stop influencers and public figures such as Elon Musk to retweet anything on this platform. But what we could do as a research community is consciously limit ourselves as to the debunking and to repeating of these narratives, because in many cases, unfortunately, this only aids the narratives to kind of further to be further boosted. So fact checker, this is why I kind of like say this could be like the notes that we would have some control over, in order to not reach front page media with these stories. So here's my story about Zelensky's forced escape from Ukraine. This video was published, and in just a month, like 25 days, it was everywhere, fact-checked by numerous organizations. How this started? On the 30th of April, someone said it on Telegram, then it appeared somehow on like a weird Facebook account, then it appeared on X. The amplifier that really promoted this one is one Kremlin aligned, I would say, account that has actually recently been suspended. But this initial video was 410,000 views. So this was like the video, the tweet that contained the organically uploaded video. This was the tweet that kind of started it all. So a lot of fact checkers started to reply after this, like to debunk this story after it was promoted by this account. Ukrainian fact checkers were the first to respond. Then we have like the story reached international audience just in one day. Like we had the US, Spanish, UK, all of those organizations. I'm not going to name and shame anyone. I mean, it's just that a lot of fact checkers just like started to debunk this thing, which is okay. But I'll say something about this. So we have like throughout just 1 week, there's so many fact checks that have been accumulated, and even at some point, like Reuters wrote about the story, so it reached mainstream media. Meanwhile, overload actors were not kind of like silently, watching the show. They were busy to prepare the other videos that were about Zelensky's escape. That she had a lover and escaped Ukraine because of it, or that she missed her interviews with the BBC. So those is like the dynamic narrative reframing that is now being used to kind of get slightly outer version of the stories, again to make the story keep the momentum, to keep the story alive. And due to this type of like attention and strategic communication, we had like new fact checks accumulating. The story reached Australia at some point. We only collected the articles here. We're not really talking about what's happened on X, because obviously on X a lot of accounts were tweeting around this thing, but we only collected the fact-checking articles. And what I want to say here is that sadly 20 out of the 22 fact checks that we collected unfortunately made no mention of any context that may have been related to this campaign. Like made no mention that this is part of the Operation Overload or Matryoshka, that would have allowed the reader of this debunk to kind of contextualize and position this not as just another fake video, but something that has been maliciously promoted as part of something bigger, and in order to kind of like build media literacy about how this campaign works. So I would say that contextualization was mostly what we are like aiming here with this presentation, to stress that this is important, to contextualize those things, that this is not just one video, because if we just like debunk one video, we'll kind of be playing the whack-a-mole game of like debunking every single video all the time. So yeah, it's true, it's Russian operation, but maybe if we contextualization maybe helps the audience to understand better how the Russian disinformation works. So here's like a slightly more dramatic timeline of this event, of this story, how it travels. So this fled through various points. So our recommendations around this, and I'll start with the last one because I already mentioned this. So obviously debunking, like it's not a question to debunk or not to debunk, right? I mean, obviously debunking needs to happen, but it's more like contextualizing the stories within the broader framework of a campaign or anything that is happening. And maybe one of our recommendations would be to avoid mass debunking, like massively hopping on the bandwagon. Then when someone debunks, then we have like debunks everywhere, because this maybe increases the chances that these stories will not receive any context. And of course, it will only aid them to travel further and further, just like we saw. So mass debunking kind of leads to virality. Other two recommendations that we have that are not around debunking the stories, but more like what to do with the content itself. So we saw X continues to be the main dissemination platform. We need more action by X, like just to remove this content more speedily. I mean, Guy will talk about this, how it has changed since the report was published, because there are some changes in X's response. But obviously, no more action is needed by X, because this is the platform where everything happens and everything travels further. And also, one angle would also be against this kind of impersonation. So many individuals, like almost 200 people are being like impersonated, 200 organizations. Is there like any legal action that an organization could actually take against such branded content appearing over and over and over and over again on social media? So those are not like BBC videos. It's fake BBC videos. So I'm going to stop here and invite Guy to jump in with an evolving tactics and the newest updates since our report in June was published.
Thank you very much, Alex, for the speedy and thorough brief on the third version of the Operation Overload report. Just want the audience not to panic seeing the appearance of another speaker. This will be brief. It's just an update. So if we can jump right in, I'd like to speak of the evolution in the usage of Telegram in the emails being sent to stakeholders, so essentially fact checkers and journalists and institutions. So the recipients of the emails have traditionally, since the beginning of the operation, receiving links pointing at Telegram. And that has drastically diminished starting in June. So we can observe that it comes at the same time that our report was published. We cannot establish a direct link between the two events, but it's still quite an interesting observation to make, as for the most technically inclined amongst you, there's an annex in the report that is a dozen pages long that delves into the exposition of the infrastructure of the Telegram operation, that side of the overload operation. So yeah, you can, welcome to think whatever you want, but we observe that. As regards X, yeah, we can switch slides. Actually, that has changed since the end of the summer. So just looking at the emails received in September, over 98% of the links pointing to X within the emails were moderated within a few hours. Just looking at an email that we received this morning tied to the operation, most links, I mean actually all links but one, are already moderated by X. So that is a significant evolution. We already have pointed out that Blue Sky was doing a rather good job at moderation. Seems like X has decided to do something here. Moving to the next slide. So in terms of narratives, again, we've described there's a fair amount of narratives who respond to the news cycle, and that really hasn't changed. There's a sort of portion of the narratives that follow the Charlie Kirk assassination or various new events with a 2 to 3 days delta. But most of the emails and the most consistent narrative that we've been seeing over a month is targeting Moldova. Of course, Moldova is due to have its parliamentary elections at the end of next week, and it's of geopolitical importance for Russia. We're also starting to see some signs of narrative shifting towards the Armenian election, which is due next year. But yeah, again, first by a large margin is Moldova being targeted. And lastly, we have a newcomer in terms of platform being used. If you care to switch to the next slide, Alex.
Yes.
There's an utilization of Truth Social as a publishing platform. And that's fairly recent, it's a few weeks old, but we're starting to see some posts tied to the overload operation. It's quite easy to make the link because they appear in the emails linking to Truth Social, and we can't really talk about moderation for now as regards that platform. That's it for the update. Normally, we would advise not to scan QR codes for security reasons, but this one is coming from us, so feel free to do so if you want to read the report.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Guillaume, for this very last update. And thank you, Aleksandra, for the outstanding presentation. The depth of your research and the clarity of your findings are remarkable. I think that what makes this research so crucial is not only the evidence it brings forward, but also the call to action that it represents. So this is something that I hope, I guess, it will be discussed during the Q&A. Before we dive into questions, just a quick reminder, you have to submit your questions via Slido. So you can either scan the QR code that I'm not sure you are, yeah, I think it will be displayed on the screen soon, yes. So, or otherwise you can browse slido.com with the hashtag disinfo. I see there are a good amount of questions. I'm trying to organize them by themes. I see there are a couple of questions on impact. Among the core themes, please remind which ones have proven most successful in generating engagement, but most importantly, why?
Sorry, when is this question?
Yeah, so this person is asking which themes are the ones that have proved to be the most successful in generating engagement and why?
Right. Guy, can I take this or? Yeah, because it's kind of like goes back to the narrative analysis and stuff. So we have in terms of like you're talking about engagement on X, the thing is that it's an automated reposting network, so they just like retweet, and then like it's not discriminated, but it's not like organic variety. It's just like the stories are seeded that then accounts come retweet them in order for them to reach out stuff. Then the case studies that we that I presented on Zelenska was obviously one big stuff. We had like I would say that. We had a lot of this type of like attacks against specific people, like more like those picanti stories that are gaining tractions in terms of reach. But if I have to tell you about like another like case story, this was like the story about the USAID, like claiming that USAID has agency has sponsored a celebrity trip to Ukraine, and it was like with this money that this person I forgot the name of the actor or traveled to Ukraine. So this gained a lot of traction because a lot of like this type of US conservatives accounts retweeted this story and kind of accused the actor. The actor himself, now I don't remember, was it Ben Stiller? Anyway, he himself like retweeted this thing. So this kind of aided the story to travel further. But in terms of like to say something has engagement, you need to see if it's like a real engagement or a fake engagement. So it's hard to say based on our sample of tweets how it travels. When we do case study analysis, when we see that something permits outside of the core, then we could say, okay, this one is very popular somehow.
Just adding to that, I mean, in terms of impact measurement, the metric that we really use is the amount of fact checks and articles that followed suit to a narrative, because that's probably the end goal. So is to have these narratives travel, and even if they are crossed by a big, red sign saying it's fake, the narrative still gets out there. And we've demonstrated in previous iterations of Alert that humor is being used. Sometimes I was the culprit of laughing myself at graffitis, fake graffitis, that I shouldn't laugh at, but were funny to a certain extent until you take a step back. And some readers of news media, even if they see that a particular piece of content is presented as fake, that story might stick. And the more of those you have, the more the narrative can live on. So that's a kind of ambiguous, assessed goal of the operation.
Thank you, Guillaume. One of our attendees wonders if the Russian disinformation gets exposure mostly through the banks, then what's the value for Russia? I would add here, if I may, that much of Overload's content comes to light through the banks, but there is a large volume that never gets sold, right? So how do you estimate the unseen part of the operation? What risk does it pose?
I mean, on this one, there are different aspects, if I may, Alex, but I mean, there's what I just said about, still getting the narratives out there. And there's also everything that is posted already in other platforms, because we concentrated on the emails and on Western or, Western world journalists and stakeholders, but there's also the entire domestic manipulation that is happening through Telegram, and there's reusage of the same narratives and the same content that can also have an impact domestically for Russia.
Thank you. Now let's move to tactics. Could it be that the infrastructure used in Overload is the same as in Doppelganger?
I'll take this one. I'll take this one. Yeah, by infrastructure, if you mean like accounts stuff, it's not the same. I don't know, for some reason it's different. We don't know, we cannot say. What we are seeing, both operation use the same tactics, like a media impersonation, right? Overload does not use external links. Like it's not that Overload creates websites that are kind of like, they're using these kind of like screenshots that appear to be like a website. There's no link where you can just click and see the fake articles. There's no external stuff. Everything happens on site. So this is the main difference with Doppelganger. It's on site, on platform. Maybe they just don't want to make people click, and the videos are atrocious enough for them to kind of like propel this narrative without having any other infrastructure. So it's not the same. It's a different operation. But the tactics of media impersonation and kind of like using endorsement from reputable organizations or individuals is pretty much the same. Like which is a bit like the Russian schizophrenia. I would say, like they attack the West and then they use the same people from the West to kind of corroborate their own story. So it's yeah, same tactics but different infrastructure.
Thank you. Another attendee wonders, given Overload adaptation, what emerging threats should we expect in the next phase?
We don't have crystal balls, I'm sorry to say.
Maybe we could expect more content. I don't know. Like they are experimenting a lot with around content, right? So I would say, as I said in the beginning, it's a very well-oiled kind of campaign now. So I would say they'll mostly get stronger unless stopped, like on some platforms. Maybe this could be it.
I mean, there are things that we've seen and observed in the last year that they would try a new technique. I mean, really hitting, throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, and abandoned some techniques and tactics that they've been using. So what has come into play very recently is the usage of AI-generated video impersonating Emmanuel Macron, for instance, or Meloni in Italy just today. It might be one of these new tests that can last a few days, but if it catches on, they might, just go further down the road and keep using that. But it's too soon to predict what is going to be the next big Overload success. We just hope the operation to be killed, to be frank.
Thank you, Guillaume. So thank you for the presentation. Is it possible for you to go beyond reach and measure persuasion or actual changes in audience beliefs?
This is very cool. Well, we are kind of like measuring what we could measure. What we could measure, we measure. But let's wait after the Moldovan elections are over, no? Because like practically everyone that we were seeing, like all the operations that we have been, not only Overload, like we have a lot of traction on Moldova. CNews report by Recorded Future and etc. Like a lot of those kind of like influencer campaigns are after this thing. So one way to measure, and fingers crossed.
Let's go for, I believe it's gonna be the last question. What are the best low-cost interventions for journalists, fact-checkers, and civil society groups to respond without amplifying the disinformation?
The one easy step that we already have written up in the recommendations in previous reports is to learn how to recognize the emails and dimensions of social media coming from the operation, because they are quite recognizable. They always come, it's always a list of links. I mean, most of the time, not 100% of the time, but 90+% of the time, it's a list of links posing as a concerned citizen or someone wanting to point out something, and really having, 10, 20 links, sometimes some attachments to stories. So that's quite easy to see the tone, the urgency, the fact that it's somebody that you don't know about, with a made-up name, with no other usage of the email address. So these are signs, and the same goes for mention of social media. So one would hope that caution is exercised in newsroom when such emails are coming, and one should learn not to process them other than putting them in an archive bin somewhere.
Thank you, Guillaume. Let's take this question. Please answer very quickly, but I think this is important. X has taken very limited action despite clear evidence of illegal content. What can be done with such an uncooperative platform?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, we did not engage with X because the company is known for having published private conversations. So we don't want to expose conversation we would have with their trust and safety team, and take the risk to have it published. So all we can do is observe their behavior. What I just said is that in September, at least, I mean, we're seeing almost systematic moderation of links tied to the overload operation. We have no idea why that happened all of a sudden. Is it because we put it in the recommendation? Is it because some other external pressure? But the fact is it happened. So unfortunately, on this one, we sit and wait.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've run out of time, but thank you, Guillaume, Aleksandra, for this incredible session, and thanks all of you, of course, our audience, for your thoughtful questions. We hope to see many of you in Ljubljana at the DisinfoLab annual conference next month. Remember, there's still tickets available, and then, of course, we will continue to connect through our webinars. Mark your calendars for the upcoming ones. On the 2nd of October, we will navigate the DSA Delegated Act on Data Access, and on the 23rd October, we will learn about AI detection tool tried benchmark. That should be all for today. Please take a moment to complete the survey that will appear when you close this session. Thank you again for being part of today's conversation, and we look forward to see you soon. Bye.
See you in Ljubljana. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.